Hello again, everybody. This is Derek, and I am coming back at you with another Wargaming and miniature video. In today's video, we are going to continue on with my Ancients update. I'm doing 15mm Ancients for Meg or Mortem et Gloriam. I've done about a third of an army of Republican Romans. I've done a complete army of Germans, as you've already seen. And now I've started working on some Macedonians. All right, so a few announcements and a few clarifications before we get started. Well, it's part of the update. I am working currently on a Meg boot camp. Later this afternoon, I will be recording the shooting chapter. We've already finished the charge and response and melee results, like how to roll the dice and how to apply the wounds for hand to hand. Now we're going to be going on to shooting. And then that should be 9.6 in the rules. Chapter 9 goes all the way up to chapter 9.11, I think is correct. And then from there, it's pretty much downhill. So I'm looking forward to the shooting video. That should be fairly easy. It's going to be talking about, well, siege engines and bows and slings and javelins and stuff like that, right? That's what I'm expecting it to be about. Okay, change. There's a change. If you watch my live streams that I do, my Wargaming Weeklies, then you probably already know this. But if you only come to these updates, these ancient updates, then you might not know this yet. But I have been making armies previously for the Magna scale, right? Because you got the Pacto, Magna, Maximus. And each one is 1/3 of an army. So you got Pacto is 1/3, Magna is 2/3, and Maximus is 3/3, or a full army. And it's basically just the number of bases you need in a unit for the unit to be considered, a unit. But once I went through the rules and learned the way combat is performed and how easy it is to knock out bases, then it made me rethink which version of the game I want to play, because I feel like a Magna, the middle one, the game would go too fast for my liking. I don't want to play a game under 2 hours. That's great for tournament style games where you can cycle through a whole bunch of different games in an afternoon, but that's not the kind of game I want. I want a game that takes about 4 hours, or where you and your friends can sit around the table, you can bullshit, you can drink a few beers, eat some pretzels, maybe take 5 or 6 hours. Just make an afternoon of it. Well, you can't do that with Magna. Magna, the game would be over too quick. Well, that's a good thing if you're doing a campaign or something like that. But I usually play scenarios and or I make scenarios, or I look up historical battles and I build scenarios or whatever. And so I had a shift. What's the term? Diadem? A dynamic or diadem shift in my brainiac. My brain, it it switched, and I realized I'm a freak. Okay, I realized I just need to go Maximus. I just need to maximize my armies. I just need to go ahead and commit, make full units and make the entire army because I'm a completionist. What I was trying to do was cut corners to, well, a couple of different reasons why I was trying to cut corners. I was trying to cut corners because of cost. I was also trying to cut corners due to speed of assembly of the armies. I was trying to cut corners because of storage space, So there was a lot of reasons why I didn't commit to Maximus. But I'm not really, to be honest, those are all so petty concerns that I just decided I'm just going to go ahead and do Maximus armies. Okay, and that's why I say I only have about 1/3 of a Roman army, Republican Roman, because I made about half of a Magna Republican Roman army. And so now, that's not even really, yeah, I need a lot more Republican Romans if I want to continue with that. But I'm putting my Republican Romans, I should say, I'm putting my mid-Republicans on the back burner. That's the Carthaginians and the mid-Republicans. I'm kind of putting them on hiatus. I'm going to leave them. They're based on, they're already based and everything. I'm just going to leave them. They'll be ready to go when I'm ready to start working on those Romans. And I'm going to start a Marian or late Republican, or you might call it a Caesarian Roman, Roman legions, like the 10th Legion and all that. I'm going to make those guys, I'm going to make a full army of those, right? Because they are the ones that actually invaded Gaul and fought the Germans that I have. They fought the Macedonians. They fought everybody, right? So that'll be probably the next army, but after the Macedonians. But as you can see, I've got my Macedonians here. I'm still in the process of putting my little big men decals on the last unit. And I decided to use the same decal on the entire unit. So like these are my Hypaspits. They all have the same shield decal. These guys are going to be one of my units, and you can see it's got red. Well, there's red over here too. They belong with them. Then I've got the white with the red shields. And then I've got this fancy design on these guys. And then you can see these guys are blank, right? And 4 of these guys are blank. Those are the shields I need to complete. One over here and one over here as well. But that's okay. That's because they would be replaced by those guys. I don't know if you can see it, but these are Zeiston officers, and I'm gonna put these in my other units. Okay, so let's go ahead and there we go. So Alexander's Macedonians, the maximum you can have is 32 bases of, I think it's 32. 32 bases of foot companions. And each of these tugs would have 8 bases, right? So you got 8, 8, 8, 8 for a total of 32. And then the Hypaspits also have 8. So what that means is I was building them for Magna, which had 6, I think it was 6 bases per unit. So I basically had to add another popsicle stick or 2 bases per unit to bring them up to what I needed. Okay, so that's fine. And I've decided I'm just going to work on the foot companions, get these guys, the pikemen, basically get these guys finished, and then I'll move on to things like slingers and archers and Thracians and stuff like that. Basically just add-ons. So, yeah, so I'm going to knock these foot companions out. Yeah. Now, my plan was to just do the decals on the shields and then put them on the shelf and wait until I got some other miniatures painted for the store and then go back to these. Well, I've decided I'm not going to do that. I've decided that I have a mental disorder where I'm kidding, but I have this problem about starting a miniature and then setting it to the side and then going back to it. I don't ever like to do that. So when I start a miniature, I have to finish it. I have to get it to completion, or I probably never will. So I know this is a fault of mine. So since I've started putting these decals on, and I know it's not going to be too hard to paint these guys. It's going to be really easy, actually. So I'm just going to knock these guys out, and then I'll get into the store, which is mostly going to be World War II figures. But I want to knock these guys out, get these foot companions done. Okay, so you know I've got the Meg Boot Camp shooting coming up real soon. I've got these guys. I'm going to finish those decals here in just a few minutes. And then later tonight or maybe tomorrow, I will start painting these. And within a couple of days, I should have them all finished. This is like 150. If these are 32 per, right, that's 150, 160 figures, right? So 160 15 millimeter figures. Ooh, I don't know how long that's going to take me. But luckily, they're going to be fairly easy. 15 millimeters are not too bad. Okay. One last thing that I want to say before I end this update is I used to play Field of Glory. I haven't played that game in many years. I have a bunch of these can't see it. I have a bunch of these range rulers that I made for Field of Glory, I don't know, 10 years ago. It was a long time. And I recently pulled them out and redid them for Meg, right? So like the color section should be 40 millimeters. The color section should be like 40 millimeters. And what I did was I alternated 40, 40, 40, 40, 40 all the way down. But those sticks are all 5 base widths or longer, and they get in the way. Filming these Meg boot camps, I realized that the longer sticks, probably good for range attacks or for cavalry or, you know, things like that. It might be good, but they're too long. There is a tool out there I've noticed that, which I might get one of them. It's a Litco makes it. It's a tool that has four. It has multiple sides. It has more than four sides, but like one side is four base widths. Another side is two base widths. Another side is three base widths, and then there is like a cutout for corners or something like that. It looks like it was made for WRG, but it would work fine for Meg, but I don't think I want to have that tool. It's a really nice tool because with that one tool you can get two base widths, one base width, three base width, four base width measurements, and you really don't need much more than four base width measurements, I figured out. So I've got this stick here, which is just slightly longer than it needs to be, like 5 millimeters too long. So what I need to do is cut it down to three base widths, or 120 millimeters, right? And then I would have my three base width ruler for my heavy infantry's movement, because heavy infantry move three base widths. The five base width stick that I have is just too long, right? One good thing about it is the five base width would be good for like skirmishers and cavalry, and it'll also be good for like when you're performing wheels. That five base width stick would actually be very nice. So a 3 and a 5 should be fine, and then I'll have each base width alternating colors, which I already have for the 5, maybe it's not a 5, maybe it's a 7 and a 9 and a 11. I got these really long ones, but I need some short ones, something just real thin and small like this for moving units around the table, right? That's what I need. I also need to make tokens, 2 tokens. I need to take some 40 millimeter bases that I'm not using, which I have some 40 millimeter bases that I'm not using, and make these zone of control areas. You don't really need to make that, but it would be nice to have. And then I need to have direction of charge arrows. So I was thinking about taking just a normal 40 by 15 base. Bases that I was going to use, because I've got hundreds of them, that I was going to use for my Napoleonics game and my American War of Independence game, but I've decided to switch from a single rank on a base to a double rank base. So I've got all these extra bases just laying around. They're also good for ancients, like close order units can be mounted on 15 millimeter bases, but I just have so many of them. So what I'm going to do is make them into little arrows so that you can do direction of charge. I might actually use those as well and make some shove markers or shatter markers. Yeah, shove and shatter markers. Maybe. I don't know. That's on the back burner. I got these out because whenever I get down to it, I can just start cutting and painting those. But these are what I'm working on right now. Okay, so you should be updated with where I'm at with my ancients. Stay tuned to my Meg bootcamp and more of these updates, and I will see you in the next update.